In this lesson, I wanted to briefly introduce you to the DOM because the DOM is probably the best way to output content into your HTML. So over in the last lesson, we looked at document write. So what this is doing, this is simply writing to the document. But the problem here is if we want to use document write, we can't specify where within the HTML we actually want to output this content. So if we wanted to see the content output, maybe we want to change Hello World 3 to Hello World 4. So in order to do that, we'd have to have the document right there. We'd have to write out Hello World within the document, and it does get very frustrating. So one of the things that we do as developers, this is where those HTML tags divs and spans come in, because this gives us the ability to add in specific tags and actually specify specific pieces of content. So I'm going to just quickly copy and paste this over, and I'm going to do Hello World here, and I'm going to update it in span to be 3. And then also, because I want to apply it to a specific div and a specific span, I'm going to use ID. And I'm just going to call it top, and ID equals top num, or something like that. So again, this is up to your discretion. You can call it whatever you want. This is just how we're going to be able to access it within JavaScript. So what we want to do in this lesson is I want to actually update Hello World 3 to Hello World 4. And I'm going to show you how to do that within the DOM. So when we go over here, we refresh it, nothing has changed, everything still looks the same. And again, I'm going to refer to what you can do within Chrome. So if you're not using Chrome, you might not necessarily have the same capability of looking at what's within the DOM. So all of these consoles are different. So if you do want to check out what I'm going to be doing, make sure that you're using Chrome and you've got your DevTools open. So when you go to Elements, you've got some options here. So you've got essentially your HTML code here, or all of your code, source code for the web page. So you can open those up and you can inspect them and check those out and so on. So down here below, you've got a second window. So you've got some styling here within this window. So we're not looking at that because we've got the styles open. We've got all of the event listeners. So currently we have no event listeners. And then we have something called DOM breakpoints. And again, we're going to look at this. This is something that you use within development when you're setting up breakpoints. And lastly, we've got properties. So within the properties, we've got these chevrons that we can open up, and we can see all of this really interesting content here. So here, when we look at our HTML, we've got our inner HTML, we've got inner text, and we see that we've got access to these pieces of content in the HTML. And this is what the DOM is. Again, this gives us all of this ability to access this content. So if we go from the top HTML element, we see that this is what's contained within it. And when we open up HTML, the first one that we have, close that one up. So our inner HTML for all of the HTML element is this. So it just shows us all of our HTML tags. And our inner text, so we've got just basically text. And the difference between HTML and text, of course, is that text is the same thing as we've got up here with all of the HTML stripped out. And then down here, we have our first child, which is head. So then we can go through and we can see actually what's contained within the head. So see, within head, we've just only got the title, and we don't have the same inner text because we're only containing what's within head here. So maybe we want to go in and dig a little bit further. So we don't want to see the first child. We've got last child we can see, and we can see what's contained within there as well. And maybe we don't even want to go into the HTML at all. We've got some options here for different HTML elements, and then we've got all of our elements on their own, so inner HTML. And really there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on here that we have access to. And we have access to all of this within our DOM. So what I actually want to do is I want to hook our DOM into a particular piece of content, that being this world 3, and I want to update that and change it to world 4. So in order to do that, I have to use a built-in function within the DOM and access this top num section of our HTML code. And I'm just going to demonstrate how we do that. So again, we refer to document because everything is within the DOM and everything within the document. And there's a way to actually select out a particular ID, and that method is called getElementById. And then we just need to specify the element name. So it's top num is the name that I wanted to access. And then going by what we saw over here, we've got this inner HTML. I have the same methods and functionality available for me here. So I can do inner HTML. And now it's just as simple as setting a brand new inner HTML. So if I wanted to see what's contained within this inner HTML, I can do it this way. And then now we're going to console log out what's contained within that inner HTML. We see that we've got a value of 3. So if we can access it, that means we can change it. So inner HTML equals 4. Go back out, refresh it, and we see now we've got 4. So that's how that's the better way of changing your HTML content using JavaScript and accessing your content. And as you can see, as we're looking through all of this different content that we've got here within the DOM, we've got all these event listeners, and there really is just a ton of information here that we can use and access. So even if we wanted to do something like reset that inner HTML of the HTML tag, we could do that. So we could just completely blank out all of this HTML code and replace it with something else. So quite a lot of different functionality that's available to us. And in most cases, it's better to access your HTML within this format. And then again, this goes to order of your JavaScript. So if we were to actually place this within our head, we don't have this these IDs identified within the DOM yet, and then we would have some issues accessing it. So if you are doing it this way, it's best to access it right at the bottom.